I've just came back from the call, and I do also need to do a shake, so I was kind of holding it in.
All right, off you go. Welcome everyone to Nothing and Like It, the only podcast daft enough to chronicle the UK's Frontier Wrestling Alliance via its appearances on television. I am your danger at the door, Kieran Lefort, and joining me first, you're looking at the real deal now, Andy Ogden. Andy, how you doing?
I'm going to put your sorry ass out on the street, mate, like the lyric said.
Yep, and here to ruin my joke, they're just... That's what I had down for Eddie's intro. This is Eddie Sideburns. Eddie, how are you?
You're looking at the real meal deal now. What?
Oh my God, no! This has all gone horribly wrong.
You want to start again? We start again.
No. Let's get on with it. No,
I'm doing fine. I'm glad to be here. Glad to talk about some more FWA. It's always a joy when I'm in the company of yourself and Monsieur Ogden. So.
This month, 2 more episodes of the TWC season, and in broadcast time, we have hit July 2004. Episode 13, July the 1st, 2004. Cold open, in a small room somewhere against a plain white wall, it is Sonjay Dutt in black and white. Short, generic 30 seconds where he says he's going to beat James Ty. The end. Opening titles. And then, in a reverby black void, with Point of No Return playing far too loud behind him, it is the in-vision return of John Bruno Meredith Atkins.
Yeah.
Rejoice, rejoice. This one would have been shot in his living room in Fulham. I would go over there once a month and tape a piece of green fabric to his wall. And we would open the curtains to get as much light on it as possible, because I knew nothing about green screen at this point.
Are you telling me that there's some place in Fulham in a house where there's just a void, and that's where John Atkins was doing that all from? So, like, someone's bought a house and went, so this is the living room, this is the void.
We turned a nice-looking front room into a black void.
It's sort of like, buddy, you remember the sketch from, like, Smith and Jones? Like, looking, sat there in the dark. It's literally
that. Get used to it. I don't think it gets any better than this.
I did mention to you, though, lads, that John Atkins had his clipboard there. Shades of Dennis Norden off it.
Yes.
He'll be all right on the night.
Yes, indeed.
Sonjay Dutt had some real funky music that you would get down to at some of the song. What was it? The funky parties that that Mark Priest used to get down to.
Yeah, this was his custom FWA theme by Ralph Cardle.
I like. Yeah, it was interesting. It was like because you saw the price, like, you're not going to take my debut from me, and I was hearing this interesting funky music. So I was like, I see.
Yes, so Atkins is there, as you say, with a mic in one hand and a clipboard in the other, usually containing bullet points because we didn't have a teleprompter. And he tees us up for Darren Burridge attempting to claim the £10,000 bounty on Nikita, and a main event of 5-star Mark Belton taking the title shot he won from James Ty against Doug Williams. Our opener, though, is Ty versus Sonjay Dutt. So, yes, Morecambe Dome, April the 8th is when this was taped. Dutt is, at this point, a regular for CZW, MLW and TNA. So very familiar to the viewers of the Wrestling Channel where this would be broadcast. He'd also made his first appearances for Ring of Honor. I believe at the time this was taped, he was both the MLW and CZW Junior Heavyweight Champion.
Wouldn't be surprised.
Nick London tells us that we're getting Dutt versus Storm for the XPW European title in 3 weeks. We start with a lot of... I called it speedy and inventive mat work. It's to show that Dutt can keep up with Ty technically.
Yeah.
I also noticed one of the ringside cameras has the same piss filter that was on Iron Duke Lynch's angle grinding on UWA Rampage.
There's your camera, which is fine.
Yeah.
And there's the blue shirt man who has went to Jaundice Heaven with the sun just glaring out.
Yes. This is why in 2004 you don't mix Sonys and Canons.
I will say the Morecambe Dome. It's such a beautiful venue, isn't it? Even on even on camera. But I think it's with this that the camera look how it's filmed on the hard cam. The ring is on a slant. It's a bit like football. So whoever's playing downhill first half is going to score a few goals, or in this case, a few clotheslines. I would also like to mention when Sonjay Dutt comes out, gives a fist pump to our friend Ben Corrigan in his "Look at me, I'm Rex Banner" in a tricorner hat.
I think it's more like it's the camera that was on the piss than the ring, although the FWA you never could tell.
I love the politeness of John Atkins when he is and his opponent. Please, I love that stuff. That's great. Don't know why.
It's very
politeness.
Yeah. The Morecambe Dome, as you mentioned, Andy, is. Have you been there?
I've not been there. I've been shown the site of the Morecambe Dome.
Oh, does it not exist anymore?
I don't think it does, because they have a new venue. Obviously, right. Pro Wrestling, they run the Alhambra Live, but which they do really good business at. Morecambe, it's very half and half as a place. Some decent places to go to, but if you go down the wrong street, there were a pub there, the Boardwalk, which had some bloke doing Gary Glitter jokes in about 2:00 in the afternoon when I went.
My experience of Morecambe was mostly go there, do the show, come home, or go there, do the show, stay over if we were lucky, then go on to whatever the next thing was.
You never had a chance to go to the upstairs pot world there?
No, I think that was Corrigan only. But the dome itself is really nice. It has the same problem, unfortunately, that Broxbourne has. The best place to put the hard cam is at the top of where everybody is sitting. So on camera, you don't get to see as many people as are there. This place is packed. Well, later on, when you see from like the ringside cameras, and we've got a match on the next show that spills out into the crowd, it's packed and they are hot as well. It's a very young crowd, but it's a very loud crowd.
Yeah. Well, the line is, it's still really Morecambe, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. In terms of when you were, because obviously if you went to a new venue when you were obviously working there, you would only kind of be there on the day to kind of do a recce of having an idea.
Oh yeah, no recce beforehand. Nope. So you've got to go there and you've got to figure it out while they're setting up the ring where everything's going to go.
Right.
Yeah. Had I done Morecambe? This wouldn't have been my first trip to Morecambe, I don't think. I would have to look on Cage Match and see when the other Morecambe shows were. And
that was, and again, is it still the same way where it was like, obviously it's promoted by kind of someone who was in Morecambe, obviously Greg Lambert, I'm assuming, being the main one there.
And his friend whose name I forget, Mark, I think. Yeah, they were the Morecambe promoters. So, we were about to start talking about a wrestling match. So, they start hitting the ropes. First time, James gets a knockdown with a shoulder block, and instead of jumping over the drop down, he puts on the brakes and applies a headlock. Second time, same thing happens again, but Sonjay rolls clear of the drop into the headlock. Third time, it's Dutt who scores the knockdown, and when James drops flat, Dutt hops over him and hits a standing moonsault to his back. And what I really liked about this sequence is they do each part of it out of the same side of the ropes each time, so it's really easy to follow. They do a long, complicated, well-executed spot leading to a standoff, and then Dutt turns a waistlock into a wheelbarrow arm drag and kicks James out to the floor. He tries to follow up with a moonsault off the apron, but Ty catches him and dumps him on the railings. Back inside, James gets a 2 count off a long delayed suplex and a back-flipping kick similar to that Zero G kick Extreme did on Johnny Storm, which is basically a standing shooting star press, but you kick your opponent under the chin as you go over. Dutt manages to come back with flying octopus hold, a roll up, a hurricane rana, and a lion salt style moonsault. Oh, and a leaping leg lariat. Put that in there as well. Why not? They flip out of each other's back suplex attempts. Ty bats away a Yakuza kick. Dutt ducks a clothesline, and they floor each other with simultaneous big boots. Kane kicks Kane. When they get back up, Ty wins a strike exchange and gets a near fall off a sit-out press slam thing I don't think I've ever seen before. So he doesn't drop him like Michinoku driver position. He drops him the other way. Instead of coming down head first, he's coming down back first, and it's off to the side.
It did look a little bit awkward, and I was kind of wondering what he was kind of doing, because I expected to obviously be the normal way now. It's like,
Don't know if he meant to do it. No idea. What else? Oh, James connects with a flying knee in the corner. When he goes for another, Dutt pops up over him into a tornado DDT that probably could have gone a little better, but he is able to float over straight into a cover off it, which looked bad and good at the same time. It was a very strange move. Ty connects with a triple tilt-a-whirl thing that encompasses 2 backbreakers and a side slam, but he's so tired he can only drape an arm across the chest, and Dutt kicks out. I am going to praise the commentary. I really liked how they were putting over that this was important for Ty's career and his psyche for him to win this match after 3 high-profile losses in a row. Dutt gets plonked on the top rope, foils whatever it is James is looking for, leaps out with a tornado DDT attempt. Ty blocks it and finagles his way into his twisting tiger driver thing for another near fall, and we go to an ad break.
You kind of wonder when does it, because they do, one of the commentary lines is James is looking a bit groggy here, and then he does the whole double backbreaker and the kind of turtle stuff and things like that. And I think it is, because if we're looking at it from the audience perspective, you know, he's fallen backwards consistently as of late. So it is kind of really important to him as far as that's concerned.
To underscore that, this was the opener. So he's gone from the main event of Uprising 2 to the opening match in Morecambe in under a year.
And do you think that's something that was kind of done on purpose, or was it just kind of things were starting to change as far as backstage, as far as looking at him, or?
If only you were watching an episodic television program that tells stories.
It's going to tell a story. Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm still thinking he's going to turn heel at some point, but I can't wait for that. But, yeah.
So back from the break, Sonjay regains control with a running boot and the Calcutta Cutter, which is a front face lock dropped onto his knee and then into an immediate flying neck breaker. Andy, I can't tell if he likes or hates this.
I laughed at that name of the Calcutta. I like, good one, that. Good one.
Yeah. When that doesn't get the pin, Sonjay has another crack at a tornado DDT, but Ty blocks it. In return, Dutt blocks James's attempts at a superplex, shoves him off the corner, and hits a Dragon Rana, a somersault into a Hurricane Rana for the pin. They shake hands and embrace afterwards. It's another loss for Ty, but it's momentum for Dutt as he heads towards the clash with Johnny Storm. As a standalone 12 to 13 minute match, I thought this was really good. I was shocked how much there's so much nodding going on my screen. I was shocked how much I enjoyed this. It feels a bit weird because I think the ad break could have been better placed than just coming back for the final minute, but that's a TV production thing. That's nothing to do with the wrestlers. I thought they had good chemistry and worked well together. Easy 3.5.
I think I think it was myself and you, Kieran, last time was sort of predicting when you mentioned Sonjay, we were both like, oh, fuck off. So I was thinking the worst here. As well with James Tyler, because I think on the previous episode, or maybe the one before that, we thought, fucking hell, he's boring. Yeah, like nothing to it. He might have been against Doug, the way he was like paint dry. So I was surprised with this match. Like you mentioned, gelled very well as a match.
I'd forgotten this happened. So I remember the Johnny Storm match, and I don't know if any of the other stuff he did on this tour appears on TV, because this was 4 days pretty much in a row that they did.
Yeah.
It was one in Morecambe, 2 in Bolton, and then the Broxbourne. One of the Bolton shows is one of the worst things I've ever seen in my life.
Well, it's Bolton in general, isn't it? Like,
yeah. I think we taped one of them, but not the other, because I definitely have a memory of not filming one of the main events and standing back at the room chatting to some other people as we could hear Johnny Storm calling every single spot.
Right.
But yeah, forgotten this existed, was really surprised and really likes it.
Do you feel though that with the commentary mentioning about the Johnny Storm match coming up, it sort of spoiled the finish, that you knew who was going to win?
Yeah, kind of. And that surprised me as well that they did mention it. And maybe it's just to hook people to come back in 3 weeks. I don't know.
Never doubt the guru. Never doubt the player from the Himalaya. I mean, yeah. Andy said it. You two were like, oh. I was like, yeah, never in doubt. This Sonjay Dutt is probably the peak version of Sonjay Dutt at that time. Because he doesn't get a lot in TNA at certain points, and he's there obviously as one of the X Division guys that stands out. So I kind of knew this. I didn't expect it to be as good. I've went 3.75 as far as I'm concerned. Very close to being a 4. I think the editing is great. I think he gave it room to breathe. Everything was kind of important that needed to be seen was seen. But Sonjay is a good wrestler, and there's things that maybe lack in his kind of arsenal, kind of in terms of what he can do to improve. He builds a bit more character work as TNA goes along, and as he gets to do other stuff. But I enjoy it. This is good. I'm glad.
However, this is not the time or the place for character work.
No, I know. This is just wrestling.
This is like Spot Fest. It's not Spot Fest, but it's like the FWA house style is very back and forth. You don't sell something for long, and people get their advantage back very quickly. There's very rarely an extended heat section in any FWA match. And to that style, these two work very well together.
Yeah.
Because they've both got some spectacular stuff that you don't tend to see out of other people.
I think as well, the indie scene in America at this time is probably at one of its heated points. Is kind of
yes. I mentioned all the places that Dutt is working for. All of those are kind of hotbeds at that point.
And it's great that FW are picking the right people and getting the right people in. You're getting the likes of AJ, you're getting the likes of Daniels, Punk, and Dutt, because this is them just about to hit their stride to go forward in America. So
it's all the people that I was going to say everybody in the audience, everybody in the southern audience is buying tapes of.
Yeah.
So, as we said, it's real in Morecambe, and they're more interested in D'Lo Brown, obviously. But everybody in the Broxbourne room is buying their TNA and their CZW and whatnot off.
Yeah.
Petar's tape stall, or
But everyone is going to probably, know D'Lo Brown from his All Japan run at that point during the time.
So, Paige turned into a Nikita promo in the same white-walled room. She says everybody knows Darren Burridge's attitude towards women, but she's been around too long to let it bother her. She's shown everyone that she can more than hold her own in the FWA, and tonight she's going to show him. Probably about as good a promo as you'll get out of Nikita at this point. 30 seconds, didn't outstay its welcome. Just the facts.
It was nice to see her actually return on TV, because I mentioned last time, we've not seen her for a while.
Yeah. Briefly back to John for him to throw us to the horrible leisure centre in Enfield for Nikita versus Darren Burridge. March the 27th in Enfield. Everybody rejoice. I think this is our last match from Enfield. I think this is the last time we see this venue on the Kieran produced run. There is TV that comes after this. As far as I'm aware, there's a Family versus Aviva Mayan and Jack Xavier match that never airs. So for this season, at least, this is our last look at the green screen studio with basketball hoops. As far as I can tell, this is only Greg Burridge's second match under the Pucker One Darren Burridge name and persona. He had been the gay one Baxter Burridge before this, Subtlety Hammer, including against Styx on an FWA show in Newport the previous year, and would eventually transition to just using his real name of Greg Burridge in 2011. He is also the man who popped up behind myself and Eddie and went, an FWA podcast? That sounds like a great idea, as we were chatting about it, chatting about what would eventually become this show, while waiting to cross the road outside the Dundee Arms by York Hall way back in 2020.
Yeah, it was so, because my only experience of Greg Burridge in general at the time was the Donny Dome 1PW, the Pucker one. So to see him like this and realize that he started from FWA, it is wild.
I don't know where he got his initial training. I know he did do stuff at the academy, and was on academy shows prior to this. Right. He would have been booked because he was local and he was Alex's mate. really.
Yeah.
So he comes out, he calls people slags, he cracks onto Jane Childs at the timekeeper's desk. She's having none of it. Page turn, and here's Nikita. Burridge, playing 100% into his character of walking issue of FHM, turns to Quilden and just goes, "Got a good pair, ain't she?" On commentary, Tony Giles says so far Nikita has seen off Mark Sloan and Stevie Knight when they've come for the bounty. And I was like, well, she has and she hasn't. This match takes place on March 27th, not broadcast until July the 1st. The Stevie Knight match was May the 29th.
Ooh.
Which puts this commentary recording somewhere in June, I guess, and probably means that match now isn't going to air. Yeah, so it's happened in Tony Giles' time. It hasn't happened in TV time.
Right, okay.
And him blowing it now means we might not get to see it. Oh. Commentary clarifies that beating Nikita in a match doesn't win the bounty. She needs to be injured and put out. And my immediate thought was, why wrestle her then?
It's a bit like, that bounty what Goldberg had on his head in like 2003, wasn't it? 2002, 3 on Raw. And they had like, who took him out in the end? They tried to get Mark Henry to take him out. I seem to remember.
It was very interesting because like she was told, one of the things he said was like, oh, she has to watch her back, and obviously, in the backstage because she can't trust anyone and stuff like that. And it was and I kind of got on the point that you were on, where it's like, well, no one needs to really have a match with her, because even if you win, you're then going to have to attack her after to make sure she's out.
Yeah, my thought was, why isn't this story a series of dumb heels trying to attack her outside the ring and her getting the better of them every time? This could have been the FWA's equivalent of DDT's Iron Man heavy metal weight title.
That is, there's a weird bit in this as well where they're talking about breaking necks as well, and it's like, oh
yeah. So I mean, they're talking about breaking necks for a reason. So Nikita arm drags Burridge all over the shop to start off with, until he gets a 2 count off an overhead throw. She does some kicks, but he powers through with vertical suplexes, finishing off with a delayed vertical suplex lift into a reverse neck breaker. And this is where they're talking about breaking necks, because his heat is targeting the neck. So he's like pulling her down over the top rope. He's always cranking on the neck until she ends up on the apron, and he takes this brilliant holiday camp bump off having his neck pulled down across the top rope. He almost hits the ropes on the other side of the ring. He goes back so far. Nikita uses a top rope drop kick and hard kicks in the corner before ending up on Darren's shoulders, and he is very excited to have his head between her thighs. He is much less excited when she starts punching him in the head and gives him a noogie, like rubbing her knuckles into his scalp. He escapes the sunset flip she comes out of this with, but cowers when she feints a dick kick. I don't think she made contact, but commentary says she does.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why would the baby face do this? But it looked to me like he was like covering up and turning away. Anyway.
Yeah. I thought disqualification.
Exactly. Don't disqualify your baby faces. She does a Samoan drop and then walks across him en route to a moonsault, but misses, and runs into his signature XR2I, which is a hip toss into a neck breaker. You may have seen the Gunn family do this as the quick draw.
I half expected a little robot coming out like R2D2.
It's a very, like, especially with his gimmick being like, I'm a chav and then stuff like that, for them to have a finishing move called the X2RI.
Oh, no, XR. Do you not know what an XR2I is?
No.
I'm not old, Kieran.
It's a car.
Right, okay.
Right, let's just disconnect him.
He can
come back when his hair's grey.
It could have been more easily explainable. He said he's going to hit her with a Fiat Punto.
So XR2I was a variation on the Ford Escort. I think it was a Ford Escort, and they were popular among like Essex boy chavs.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Bloody hell! I didn't think that would be the reference.
Well, it's like I was wondering if it was something to do with a car or something, but I wasn't completely sure, because it did just seem like a real like niche thing, but that makes sense. Can I just say as well, there's a moment where he says to someone, or he shouts out to the crowd, he says, "Why don't you shut up, you tart?" And I just suddenly felt like Del Boy had suddenly popped up or something like that.
He could probably do that character as well.
Yeah.
So he's hit his big move, but he'd rather parade around and cover. And then he starts taunting and forearming her and slapping her when he picks her up. But after a couple of goes round of this, she grabs a flash cradle and scores the pin.
Yeah.
I called this 7 minutes that probably could have been done in 5. And I would have liked to have seen Nikita get a decisive win rather than a lucky cradle, especially over a misogynistic character like this. I think that makes her look much better and him look like more of an idiot. But decent enough TV match. 2 stars, and I might have put an extra quarter on that if she'd have hit her moonsault and won.
It passed me by, to be honest, lads.
Yeah.
I think probably the worst of the Nikita matches, because matches she's had with Mark Sloan.
Well, you loved that Sloan match, didn't you?
Yeah, the Sloan match was really innovative, I thought. This, just passed me by. When they mentioned
it's solid television filler. Like, there's nothing in it that's bad, but there's nothing in it that's outstanding either. Yeah. It's a wrestling match.
But the good thing is the £10,000 bounty. I was on Nikita's. It's good job Burridge didn't get it, because we would have got a more higher production version of London Rampage if you've ever seen that monstrosity of a film.
I have not seen that. I have a copy of it, but I've never watched it.
Yeah, no, we did a drunken review of that on the old Graps and Claps feed.
Is that the one with Osprey in it as well?
It's one with Osprey.
Yeah. It contains a lot of very cancelled people.
Yeah.
I think, because obviously this is the story we're going, it's Nikita versus misogyny, and obviously the misogyny are going for the 10,000, because obviously the Stevie Knight and stuff like that. So, I mean, I thought it was okay. It did pass me by a little bit. There was bits where I was like, okay, he's a competent worker, obviously, because I think he's only like a year or 2 into it.
Yeah, would you believe Nikita is the most experienced one in this match?
Yeah, because
she's in like her 5th year at this point, the 4th or 5th year, and he's in his 2nd.
And you look,
because his first ever match is 2 years ago. Is in TWA in 2002. And
I take that with a little bit of like a pinch of salt when it comes to cage match.
Right.
But that might not be his first ever match, but he probably wasn't too long into the business at that point.
Plus, you look at him now, he's grown a load of tattoos, and he's missing the furry dice on this one, isn't it?
That wouldn't come in for a while. I didn't think that appeared until Team Shag.
Shag, yeah.
He's missing the custom theme song and the dancing and everything else. It also
like I said, This is only his 2nd match as the Pucker one.
Yeah, and it says he's trained both at FWA and the NWA Hammerlock, so that's
maybe that would have been local-ish for him as well, I guess.
But it was for what it needed to be. It was okay.
Yeah, we're not tearing up any trees. Leave the memories alone, because this is the only time we see Greg Darren Baxter Metallico Burridge for this podcast. He doesn't return to the FWA until the end of 2005.
Well, Greg, thank you for saying that this was a great idea. And then 5 years later, it comes...
it was your encouragement that persuaded us very slowly to do this.
Because we had no ideas. We just went, we should do this. And then suddenly we turned around and we saw you and you went, yeah, that's a good idea. And then neither of us thought anything of it. And then suddenly I get a DM and we drag Andy Ogden into it. Here we go.
So we get a very boring babyface promo from Mark Belton saying he's going to pull out all the stops and keep fighting against Doug Williams to become the FWA heavyweight champion. And the graphic says 5-star goes for the gold after the break.
That minus 5-star promo, wasn't it? It's the most generic babyface promo. I'm going to try my best. I might win, I might not. Who knows? I'm going to try.
It's very fitting of the character he's presenting, though. What? So I kind of think it was on purpose.
Fucking wet wipe.
5-star Mark Belton is going to win this match whether he wants to or not. He is He sounds like a child who's won a competition to cut a promo on someone's behalf. That's what he sounds like. I put down Belton Screams competition winner. Honestly, he's just like, I'm going to win the match. Maybe I'm going to win. I don't know. It's like, fuck me, man. You have just, we've seen good promos, and then you've just come up with this shit.
Eddie, you made him sound like the Artful Dodger off Oliver Twist.
Please, sir, let me win.
After the break, Atkins reminds us that Belton beat James Ty to earn this title shot, and that Williams is coming off a successful defence against CM Punk just last week, and then throws us back to the Morecambe Dome. 2 out 3 falls, obviously. Doug Williams versus 5-star Mark Belton, FWA title, April 8th in the Morecambe Dome. Andy's given up. There's a sign that's been said, gone to pub, back later. Doug has apparently left the belt at home.
Where is this belt? I was like,
Don't
what
know.
the fuck?
Don't know. Don't forget, he's all over the place at this time. So he is all over the UK and going to the US Ring of Honor and going to Japan for Noah. So there's every chance he hadn't had time to go home and pick it up.
Straight at the airport, away with the belt.
Yeah, you don't think wrestlers carry all the belts they have around to all their bookings every time, do you?
Yeah. Carry the briefcase. That works in promotions, obviously, in 2025.
Excuse me, I heavily expected an Ultimo Dragon picture, but it's Doug with all his belts, and that's just how he wanders around airports.
No, it's just Doug, but the FWA heavyweight title 8 times.
When you get that edited, that'll be great.
Hey. Nick London puts over that Belton is a very different kind of wrestler to Doug's recent opponents. This starts with lots of nicely executed chain wrestling and tying each other in knots, including Doug busting out the Paradise Lock. I did not have him down as a Milano Collection AT guy, particularly in 2004.
Where was Milano at this point? Was he in
Torrimon?
Oh, yeah.
So Torrimon doesn't become Dragon Gate until like 3 weeks after this is broadcast, I think.
So he's basically sneaked in a Torrimon showing when he's had a chance.
Yeah, maybe. I know. So 2002 and 2003, Mark Sloan was a big Torrimon fan, to the point where he has a 6-sided ring because he'd seen it on T2P tapes. I have been to FWA Academy shows where they broke out the 6-sided ring.
I've seen wrestling in a 6-sided ring, which wasn't TNA. They used it at Tidal, right. I think it was like the Stylish show in Leeds, and the 4-sided ring wasn't there. I think Steve Linsky must have been around in the vicinity on that day, but I've seen it in a 6-sided ring. It's strange.
When AJ Styles came up to wrestle up in Scotland, they'd booked, and this was the first time I'd ever met Mark Sloan, Lion Kid, and Haskins, because they'd travelled all the way up from Portsmouth. They used the 6-sided ring. The quick story, and again, it's nothing important, but the nicest thing they ever did for me is I was waiting for my lift for someone to pick me up. Now, from where I stay to Ayr is about half an hour away, 20 minutes away, and they had a long journey to get back home, but they did stay. And Mark Sloan was really nice. I as much as I bury him on this podcast, he's a nice person to me. He gave me DVDs, so I can't say anything bad. But they stayed and waited for a little bit while I was waiting for my lift. So
that's
nice. Really nice. But yeah, and I can see Mark Sloan. I can see with like his gear now a little bit how he is a kind of a Tormund fan, because some of it does very much remind me of like Genki Horiguchi's kind of stuff and things like that, but maybe not as fashionable. But yeah.
I wonder if Mark has gone HAGE yet. I haven't seen him in years. My 6-sided ring story is I went to an Academy show that was a day-long tournament / TV taping with this 6-sided ring. They taped something like 14 matches back-to-back. Poor Max Voltage and Dan Head, who were in the final, had to wrestle 4 times. And in that final match, one of the most terrifying things I've ever seen happened, where Max, who was knackered, went for a top rope springboard moonsault to the outside. And he got all height, no distance, and came down throat first on the top rope, which then bent as far down as it would go, and then the tension released and fired him backwards up the aisle.
Make it sound like Wile E Coyote, innit?
Yeah, I've never seen it back, but it's burned into my brain, and I was sitting near the hard camera, so there's no way you can't hear me yell, "Oh, fuck," when it happens. He completely missed his opponent. Didn't touch him at all. Anyway, so this Paradise Lock is not as tight as Milano's, and 5-star is able to roll free. Doug gets a 2 count for Sunset Flip, and we do a silly double pinfall spot, and then Belton goes into the Johnny Saint Ball. Go back to season 3 episode 1 if you want to hear my rant about why this is stupid outside of old World of Sport rules. Doug wasn't watching the Belton tie match and has never heard of Johnny Saint, so he is fooled by this and ends up in an arm lock, and then gets scooped straight out of the ring as he tries this leg stretching maneuver. They pick up the pace of it, but it still all holds and reversals until Williams sneaks in an opportunistic knee and an uppercut, and then he batters 5-star in the corner. Williams, remonstrating with the referee, gives Belton the recovery times he needs to block a corner whip, baffle Doug by spinning and twisting all around him, and then shove him off the ropes into a schoolboy. Yes, complete with the trip for the first fall. Ad break with a very loud 3PW promo that I was not expecting.
I have no idea what this company is. Can someone give me like a quick one?
3PW was Propane Pro Wrestling. It's the Blue Meanies company.
Fucking hell. Okay.
And that was one of the yet another show that was on the Wrestling Channel.
Yes, it looked like it was very. The music was really loud. It took me by surprise a wee bit. But
the music is called Something Wicked by a group called Wolfpack.
Oh,
it's one of those songs that's burned into my head because this promo was in every other ad break on TWC.
Ah, okay.
So we come back to Doug Williams looking very surprised that he lost a fall to such a lame move. And he tries to speed things up when they restart. He goes for a crossbody, but Belton catches him, stumbles back, and accidentally crotches him on the top rope. And I was like, why wasn't that the last spot before the pin rather than the first one after it? It would have been much more believable that Doug had got pinned off that rather than the 1978 World of Sport thing they just did. And 5-star could have played it off like he had no idea what happened. Like it was an accident and he took advantage. So Doug tends to his Bad Nob Ache on the outside, and then when Belton comes to check on him when he gets back in, pops 5-star in the mouth with uppercuts. 5-star fires back with stiff chops. Incidentally, it was seeing these chops that made me realise what his t-shirt was about. So his t-shirt has got an upside down handprint on the front, and it says 5-star was here on the back. Oh. And it's to do with him throwing hard chops.
Who's it? Big T used to have a t-shirt like that with like his handprint like that.
Yeah,
on the front because obviously hands like shovels.
Yeah, it makes sense for a giant man like that, but not 5'8" Mark Belton or whatever he is.
Maybe he's just got long fingers, hasn't he? So he
Temu Nick Jackson. So Belton hits only turnbuckles with a running elbow in the corner, and this opens the door for Doug to work over the arm. He refuses to let this thing go. Like it's the commentary cliche is he's looking to take that arm home with him, but Doug really looks like he does. So he tries pins and submissions, hanging onto the arm. He wraps it over the ropes. He does the straight arm lift. Belton gets hope spots with an O'Connor roll and a springing Hurricane Rana off the middle rope. They do a double fake out in the corner, ending with Doug catching a flying body press and turning it into a shoulder breaker, then hitting the bomb scare knee drop on the shoulder and clamping on a bridging hammerlock for the equalizing submission. So it's kind of like the cattle mutilation, but instead of like being both arms hooked, he's just got a hammerlock on and flips over. Back to the Atkins void, as he tells us we're out of time and we'll see the conclusion next week.
My final line on my notes is we're out of time. Fuck me again.
John also tells us we're getting an Alex Shane versus Aviv Mayan rematch, and Johnny Storm versus the debuting D'Lo Brown as an inset video plays Brown's entrance in slow motion beside him. All in all, I think this is quite a good episode. If I'm going to nitpick, and I am sick of the final fall next week thing already, and this is only the second time we've done it.
I think I like. Again, I think we've already said the title being for the two, always being the 2 or 3 falls, is a kind of a crutch, which is a problem because in the words of my colleague Mr. Ogden, oh, you wonder what the score is going to be. You kind of already know it's going to be 2-1 to somebody. Yeah. I think, however, what I enjoyed about this, I think the first match between Sonjay and Ty was great, no issue with it at all. The Nikita match was what it was. This was very technically sound, but again, that's just kind of what you kind of get with Doug if you look at it, because that's just how, like, and Belton is competent, like, he's
a decent wrestler,
and I think as well, like the first fall taking Belton, because obviously all we've seen of Belton is high flying and stuff like that, but then he has to go into some technical stuff with Doug, and he shows that he can kind of hang within that. Is very kind of interesting to see. Now, I think last episode I discussed I have had to do that spot before with the ball and the Johnny Saint thing, so I can understand your thing with it. But I thought, technically sound, really enjoyable. Didn't have any major problems with it. But again, it's just we know what the expectation is going through. Yeah. I do like the fact it was John coming in his void telling us that we needed to be back instead of the commentary team.
I do think this is also the last time this happens. I think all other title matches now all play out in a single episode.
Oh, okay.
In hindsight, I think the title match should have aired in full with Nikita's match moving to next week, but keeping her promo to build it up. And that's my other nitpick, actually, with this episode. All 3 promos are for things happening on this episode. Nothing builds up anything for the future, apart from Nick London pushing Dutt versus Storm in 3 weeks, and John running down next week's show during the outro.
Excalibur he isn't, but he gave it a go.
Are you suggesting we should put a mask on him?
Not well. Get a ukulele and he starts cutting promo.
I can't remember if I did it at any point here, but when I used to shoot promos in RQW, I would usually try and get people to do in 2 weeks, next week, and tonight variations. So like I could build stuff up for a couple of weeks if necessary.
What I also liked as well, quickly, just about the John Atkin void, or the Atkin void as I'm going to call it. I like the tiny screen, and I like the fact it had D'Lo on it, and it was showing like what was. I like that tiny screen. That was a good.
Yeah, well done. It does get used across the course of the run for more and more stuff. Andy, how did you feel about this episode overall?
I think overall I enjoyed the Sonjay, Dutt and James Ty match. That were a nice surprise. A bit pissed off that it cut off at 1-1 again. It was a good match. Don't get me wrong. Mark Belton's, I think he's the one who's surprised us most out of the 3 of us. We've enjoyed his work on this run. Nonetheless, his promo was a bag of shite. Nikita and Burridge, it was just there, to be honest. There don't feel enough juice in that bounty storyline.
It largely gets forgotten about, which is the problem.
Yeah, they might as well just stick an actual bar of bounty.
Make her wear a hat with a chocolate bar on it.
Yeah. And
first one to grab it gets it.
But then again, it'd scare people off, that bounty bar, because the last one in the tin. Generally, people say the bounty.
I like them. I don't care if it's the last one in the tin. It means I get a tin full of bounties.
I don't mind them. It's just people are weird, aren't they?
I like the dark ones.
Oh no,
the real bastard of
Vaudeville. Rubbish.
Do we get a point where we're like, because obviously I think, are we still trying to figure out who has created the bounty, or
we don't know yet. Oh, I mean, obviously I know.
And I'm curious to see where it goes, but I do feel like it's one of those weaker stories that could probably get kind of pushed aside quite quickly, or it's kind of like we need to keep Nikita on somehow, I guess, in a way. But
yeah, like, more definitely should have been done with it. It more definitely should have been outside the ring stuff, I think. Like, if every week you get another idiot trying to attack her, like, she can still have matches, and those matches can still be people trying to injure her enough to claim the bounty, but I think it needs extra stuff.
Yeah,
you know, her in the chippy getting attacked by the guy serving her fish and chips because he's seen her on the TV and he wants the 10 grand. And that could be, you know, like any local jobber, that kind of thing.
Walloping with a big Saveloy over the...
Yeah, exactly.
She goes into the butchers and Fred's and John Savadont's there, cameo.
Oh, is that where they introduced the new gimmick, the bacon slicer, and they have to do a loser leaves town match? They're literally bringing the sack in the bacon slicer story to life.
So, episode 14, July the 8th, 2004. This week's cold open promo is a frustrated Alex Shane.
Oh,
he is pissed that Aviv Mayan beat him a couple of weeks ago and that Steve Corino helped him do it. He does have a good line, although he makes a meal of it. I'm a big believer in capitalism, but nobody capitalizes on me. Unfortunately, he has to throw a couple of extra details in there to fuck it up, but fine. He said he did two things after that match. He signed a rematch and he made sure Corino wouldn't be here for it. And after tonight, Aviv's career, just like this interview, will be over.
Kieran.
Yes.
This opening promo. Alex Shane promo in a letterbox, like what someone would see from the other side of the door, as he looks like a debt collector with his heavies in leather.
I suspect, so don't forget, this would have been shown 4x3 when it came out, right?
Yeah.
Old square telly. And I suspect, though I put those bars on it because somebody else had filmed it and hadn't framed it very well, and if I put those black bars on it, that means I've got room to shift that up and down.
Yeah.
That's probably why that happened, because I was wondering that as well. But yes, no, it does look like the postman's worst nightmare, doesn't it?
You maybe should have just got it literally like that, where it's just his eyes.
He's fucking the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah.
I've put down my first bit was show stealer's phone hasn't stopped ringing. Is that people asking you for the money you owe them? But he's yeah. It's Alex. It's what you get. I do love the fact he just randomly said he's a big believer in capitalism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wrote 54 seconds, pretty concise for Alex Shane. He was probably told to go 30. Opening titles interrupted in their final seconds by the Burchill Bong. God, that sounds like a product you get at your local drug paraphernalia place, doesn't it?
For CBD oil.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the vape shop round the corner from me sells those. The screen turned negative colours, and it is the debut of Burchill's Monster Moment. So, they wanted Burchill on TV more than they had matches of Burchill to put on TV. There was no Burchill in the FWA for 2 months after the Enfield debacle. He was off working Premiere, All-Star, WZW, Germany and Italy. And I believe it was Ralph that came up with this idea, a monster moment every week. Burchill doing something incredible or a big moment from his run in the FWA. So yeah, flash frames of Burchill among stock footage of atomic bomb tests. And then Burchill footage plays out in the middle of the screen with the description at the top and the disclaimer running across the bottom. And for some reason, jets of fire shooting out of each corner of the screen, possibly because I just got and learned how to use the program that shot jets of fire out of each corner of the screen. Hey, a lot of this show is stuff Kieran has just figured out.
I just imagine like the bit where Shawn Michaels just presses that gif where Shawn Michaels just presses the button and it's like F for fire. For fire.
Also, don't forget, this is 2004. 2004 pro wrestling is all red and black, fire, explosions, heavy metal, and scaffolding and cages. Like that is the iconography of pro wrestling.
I was going to say you've just played the character card for Kane. Red, black, fire, heavy metal.
This inaugural monster moment is the Double Dragon Double Suplex from Frontiers of Honor, where Burchill German suplexes Raj Ghosh, who is hanging on to Ross Jordan, so he also gets an overhead belly to belly. We see it as it appeared in the edit of the show, and then 3 slow motion angles, and those two boys got fucking hurled. Both of them land horribly on their heads, necks, and shoulders, which I hadn't really realised when we watched this as part of our 2003 episode. And then at the end, we are promised another monster moment next week. Into the Atkins dimension, as he sets us up for this week. One quick change from last week. The music has been turned down to an acceptable level, and it is not Point of No Return. It's an instrumental of the Vendetta theme, because at the time of broadcast, that would have been the next show you could buy tickets for.
Nice. I like it.
Coming up, Alex Shane versus Aviv Mayan and Johnny Storm versus D'Lo Brown. But first, the conclusion of last week's main event. So, back to the Morecambe Dome. Doug Williams versus Mark Belton. Doug goes straight back to the arm, but Belton keeps legging it for the ropes. He scores with a vertical suplex and heads up for the bomb scare knee drop, but 5-star cuts him off. Doug, this surprised me, Doug threatens a top rope powerbomb, which is not a very Doug Williams move. But Belton backdrops him into the ring and misses his 5-star leg drop off the top, which, given the positioning, was about 2.25 stars. They battle out onto the apron where Belton kicks Williams off to the floor, somersaults back in, and then hits Doug, the railings, and the floor in that order with a flip tope. And then back inside, it's all 5-star with a spinning leg lariat and a top rope drop kick. He avoids attempts at a Revolution DDT, a Chaos Theory, and a clothesline, only to end up in a waistlock anyway, run into the turnbuckles and into the Chaos Theory for Williams to get the last fall. And then they shake hands and they're all buddy-buddy afterwards. It's only 4 minutes of action, but getting to watch these back-to-back, you can quite easily see how this slotted onto the end of what we saw last episode. And as I said, like moving the Nikita match into this episode, this would have very easily have fitted in.
Yeah.
However, I will reiterate that I was told that my episodes needed to be exactly 45 minutes with no leeway.
You could have made a case, it's only 4 minutes, Alex.
This not Alex. This is Sean at the Wrestling Channel. Right. He was the guy who told me this.
Channel man, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, and and it's Alex's idea to split up these 2 out of 3 falls matches to like as a hook to bring people back the next week. What struck me was how up for it the crowd were. Like they were really into this.
Awesome.
The match as a whole is probably 3.5 if you take all 3 falls together. Like decent, good.
Yeah, it's one of Doug's more interesting matches recently. I'll definitely say that.
I think because it's a British style opponent and not Doug versus the import.
Yeah, and it was nice to see, the start of the match with all the fondling and that on the mat. It's something different. Mark Belton, I tend to enjoy. Obviously, we're going to end 2-1. Fucking what? I think there's not the listeners know. I'm done in with these matches at 2 out of 3 falls, and we've got another 2 years of 2 out of 3 fall matches.
When Andy Ogden is the head of all British wrestling, 2 out of 3 fall matches will be banned.
It will be. And you know what? I used to always blame Jim Smallman for this on NXT. It's an idea he took from NXT UK to NXT.
Also, think of the Reslo stuff we watch and how many of those 2 out of 3 full matches end 2-1. All of them.
All of them, yeah. It's a British disease.
Yeah.
It is.
The commentary did a really good job of summarising the last, the first 2 falls, which I thought was good. Again, technically fine, decent. I just think, again, I'm with Andy when it comes down to the 2 or 3 falls is really just a bit of a crutch.
You're not getting any argument out of me either. I think it's crap too.
Oh, I know. I'm glad we're all in agreement with it. I think they've done some very interesting stuff with the cards and stuff like that. Although I don't think we've seen a red card properly yet.
No, nobody's been red carded.
But I think that as an idea is good because it's going out there. It's
Oh,
being
yes,
different.
they have. Yes, they have. Zebra Kid and Hayde Vanson on the first episode of the run had a double DQ, so that would have been double red card.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, but I think that's the only disqualification we've seen.
Yeah, because that first episode was the letdown where it was basically
where there were no
finish
finishes.
on, like, everything. Yeah.
Yes.
It was like, hey, by the way, we're just going to do that. But I think, as I say, until they get away from that, Doug is again... They use Doug well when they have him, because obviously Doug, flies away at some point. Nice if you brought the belt, Doug, but again, we can't complain about that. You could only try your best against Sean, probably trying to convince him of that point, but
plus
again,
as well, you remember the Steve Carino one? There was a little hype package beforehand, and then it go into the final fall, flash up on the screen, which made that feel special. This felt like a wet fighting chip.
But I think
I'm not doing a fucking hype package every single episode.
I just want to give you more work, Kieran.
Yes.
In defense of Kieran, right? You'd want to care more about Steve Carino versus Doug Williams because the belt could change.
Also, don't forget what I said about Belton last month.
I was going to say, this fucking child competition winner is not going to have a fucking chance against Doug Williams at that point. I don't want to fucking see him. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's a decent wrestler. Terrible fucking human being from what we've been told. So as far as I'm concerned, I just want him to fuck off back the line. Get James Ty in here. I mean, that might pop me to sleep. But
James Ty is the only person further down the line than Mark Belton.
Wow.
So I said last episode there was one man more professional than Steve Carino when it came to nailing TV promos with little prompting or even time to prepare. And here he is. It's D'Lo Brown.
Fucking oozing in charisma, this lad.
Oh. So he gets shot with two cameras, one in colour in front of him on a mid shot and one side on black and white close up. And he's in an FWA Academy t-shirt. He says, everybody's saying, please come back to Europe. Please come to the FWA. So I get on the plane. I fly over the big pond. I land at London Heathrow and I find out I've got to wrestle Johnny Storm. He's about to launch into a tirade about being a better European champion than Johnny when his phone rings. And allegedly, it's the Queen. Or it's somebody he refers to as Queenie, anyway. He says he'll come for a spot of tea with her when he's finished with Johnny Storm. He hangs up and says when he's finished battering Johnny Storm all over the place, the only question that should be running through your mind is, are you down with the Brown? Perfect. 60 seconds, bang on. He does a country-specific bit. He gets the name of the company and his opponent right, which is not always a given with the imports. Promotes the training school, and as you said, jumps off the screen with charisma. What a pro.
He's so good.
This guy was bottom of the card in WWE.
Fucking aces and eights, fucking RO and D, fucking Nation of Domination. This guy is fucking brilliant.
ITV celebrity wrestling.
Yeah.
He was the most interesting thing on that, the most charismatic person on that screen on that. And that was a show that had Roddy fucking Piper on it as well.
Yeah, King of Sumo Slam, as we all know.
Yeah.
I think he did a short spell in TNA from what I remember.
At this, I was going to get onto this when we get to the match. At this point, he is doing some stuff for TNA, or he has done some stuff for TNA. He's doing a little bit more stuff for TNA, but he is full-time with All Japan.
Yes.
He is, as you said, part of the RO&D faction, which stands for Roughly Obsess and Destroy. Do you know the other members of that group?
Umaga.
Yes.
That group is incredible. It's D'Lo Brown, Taka Michinoku, Rosie and Jamal, Rico, Just Incredible, Matt Morgan, Mike Awesome, Taiyo Kia, Bull Buchanan, and The Wall.
Brother.
What a lineup.
All right, gang of bastards, that is.
Yeah. Big bastards too. Like, there's some units in there.
Bunch of bastards. And then Just Incredible's in there. And you're like, what the fuck is he doing there?
How the fuck did he get in Old Japan, though? Rat face.
Yeah.
Got it. Has mates, I guess.
Yeah.
So, a static out of the FWA website, and then we cut to Hayde Vanson in a very small room. He calls out Zebra Kid, saying last time they met, the ref couldn't get his facts straight, and it's come down to this, a ladder match. And the camera zooms out to reveal he is not actually in a small room. He is at the top of a ladder, very near the ceiling. He says he doesn't expect to come out of a ladder match at 100%, but he also doesn't expect Zebra to come out of it at all, as a graphic tells us we will get this match next week.
Or as he mentions it, Hate Vanson versus Mr. Animal Farm. So if someone's wanking a horse off, you know why now.
Wouldn't put anything past the residents of Broxbourne. This looks like it was shot in someone's garage, and I swear there was the sound of someone having a piss in the background.
Yeah, pick that up.
This is actually the loading dock at Broxbourne.
It was like, because I was like, okay, because I think one thing about Hade's promos or the ones that we've seen so far is they're uniquely filmed to begin with in like different kind of things. Because obviously he had
the other one was behind the fence, wasn't it?
Yeah, behind the cage. And then this one, I'm like, okay, he's looking down at something, and then obviously slowly pans out, and I did like that. I liked the reveal of how it was what match type it was gonna be. So I did enjoy that. Hade Vanson, I don't know how to feel about him completely just yet. Still kind of here and there with him, but like, he's getting on me.
He does put on a silly voice for his promos.
Yes, he does.
So back to John Atkins in the Twilight Zone as he explains that Alex Shane has been distracted by his gripes with Steve Corino and Jack Xavier, leaving him open to be beaten by Aviv Mayan, and we throw to Morecambe for the rematch. Morecambe hate Alex Shane. Smart people knew I liked him. They loudly chant that he sucks, to which his very Alex Shane reply is, I may suck, but that just means I've got something in common with the women here in Morecambe. Dreadful. After Aviv's entrance, and we have an ad break, the bell rings, and out of the first lockup, Shane puts the much smaller Mayan on the top rope and slaps him. Do you remember him doing this to Ross Jordan a couple of weeks ago? Second lockup, he just flings him backwards across the ring, and then laughing gets down on his knees and puts up his dukes. They lock up in this position too, where with Alex again throwing Aviv back, but he kips up, drop kicks Shane, and then flings him all over the place with arm drags until he gets his head kicked off and thrown out the ring. Each time Aviv tries to get back in, Shane forearms him off the apron and does some star jumps. And Mayan eventually flips over him to get back into the ring and sends him outside with a flying head scissors and a clothesline. Now it's his turn to knock Alex off the apron and do his own mocking star jumps. They do this a few times, and when Alex eventually steps back through the ropes, Aviv kicks the rope into his nuts and gets in some forearms. Alex reverses a whip, though, leading to Aviv taking his championship-level bump for the check-up from the neck up again. Shane boot chokes Aviv in one corner and then clothesline him in the opposite one. He goes to repeat this, but Aviv avoids the clothesline and grabs a roll-up for a 2 count and gets run into the clothesline when they're back on their feet. Alex Shane submission hold number 1, rope-assisted abdominal stretch. When it becomes obvious that that's not working, Shane pulls Mayan out into a side slam for a 2 count. Aviv fights his way out of the corner, but gets the full Nelson neck breaker for another 2, and then we go into Alex Shane submission hold number 2, rope-assisted cobra clutch.
Does love a rope assist.
Oh, can't do anything without the aid of a rope. The children of Morecambe are screaming at this cheating, and eventually referee Quilden catches him. Aviv comes back by leaping 9 feet in the air for an enziguri. More forearms, and a cut to the crowd to remove something before Aviv drop kicks Alex in the arse to send him outside. From their positions, I think it was Aviv hitting a Manhattan drop that got cut. Either because it was obvious that it was nowhere near connecting, or Alex had watched this in the interim and realised that someone the size of Aviv should not be doing a move like that to someone the size of Alex Shane. Aviv with a double jump dive to the floor, and Shane decides he's had enough, clambering over the barrier and heading off through the crowd. Aviv gives chase and they fight all over the building as Corden waves his arms around and John the ring van driver acts as impromptu security. Alex shoves Aviv off a 6-foot wall, but as he turns around and celebrates, Mayan scoops him up from behind in a shopping trolley, runs him into the wall, and comes out of the upper seats with a Hurricane Rana. Nick London actually got a chuckle out of me for suggesting Aviv must have briefly left the building to go and steal the trolley from somewhere. Back in the ring, Alex rolls clear of a moonsault and gets a 2 count off a choke bomb. When he tries it again, Aviv turns it into a tornado DDT for his own near fall. Alex hoists him up for the one-night stand, but in trying to spin out of it, Mayan catches Quilden with his feet and knocks him down. Shane takes advantage, low-blowing Aviv and collecting a chair from ringside. As he raises it, though, Jack Xavier speeds into the ring and, as with their brawl during the Carino-Williams match, shoves it into Shane's face after ducking a swing. Not as hard this time, I don't think. Like, that first one sounded like a gun going off. This one was a bit... He'd obviously been told 80% is fine. Xavier drapes Mayan over Shane and chucks the ref back in, but it's only a 2. They stagger back up, Aviv runs into a super kick, and Alex goes to yell over the ropes at Jack, who is on the stage with Steve Linsky and Mike Bishop trying to get him back to the locker room. As Shane climbs up to the middle rope, Aviv sneaks up behind and pulls him down into a roll-up for the pin. The pop is huge. Like, the lid comes off the Morecambe Dome. And Alex sells it brilliantly. He cannot believe that he has lost 2 matches in a row to this annoying little pipsqueak. Aviv and Xavier celebrate on the stage as Jack makes me and you faces at Alex. I'm going to sound like a broken record. 3.5. I thought this was loads of fun, well executed. The bully heel gets his comeuppance, and I mean, at least half star of that is the crowd. They were well into this.
I don't know if you felt like myself, but Alex Shane did a great job here of trying to get Aviv Mayan over.
So Aviv was his project at this point. They are doing this match all over the country for loads of different promotions. Like, they did this from Portsmouth up to Eddie. Where did BCW promote? Like,
Kilmarnock and East Kilbride, sir.
Yes, they definitely did this in East Kilbride. So they're doing this they're doing it on all-star shows. They're doing it everywhere. And then saving the best version of it for FWA TV, obviously.
Yeah. They did, honestly, they did excellently here. I was happy to see the Alex Shane goes out into the crowd spot, because we've not seen that for
there was a bit I liked during that. Nick London says, are you sure the crowd is the best place to fight Alex Shane? He did a year of hardcore matches against the family. That like he is in his element fighting people in the crowd.
Yeah, no, I thought that was a good touch. The shopping trolley, in fact, they actually found one to fit Alex in, which was like long enough. like something from Costco, wasn't it?
Did someone get the pound back out of it and just never return it?
Yeah, that would have been the thing. Well, they still.
Well, no, I think this is before the days of having to put a quid in.
Well, to be honest, some supermarkets still do that now. You have to put the quid in. It's not like
all the ones near me do. It depends where you live. Like, for example, I have posh friends who live out in posh places where you don't have to do that. Why? Because people don't nick the fucking trolleys and chuck them in the canal.
Well, Asda and Tesco, you don't have to put the quid in.
Tesco near me, you do.
You have to put a quid in, but instead of like a quid, you can like use like a charity used to do things where they created something that looked like that.
There were places that used to sell something the size and weight of a pound coin to do this with, and it would cost you £1.50.
Yeah. Well, luckily enough, our Jeff, when we went to Cheltenham, won a trolley coin. So,
won nothing on the nags, but he's got a trolley coin.
Yes, yeah. But in final conclusion on this match, I will say, I want to see Aviv Mayan versus Alex Shane again, and not fucking Mikey Whitwreck. I know they hyped it up after, saying, 2 weeks, last man standing, be there, or be square, 9 p.m, 22nd of July. But I just thought there's no juice in that. You want to see if Alex Shane can actually get a victory against Aviv Mayan.
It was rinse and repeat of obviously the original match with a little bit more.
Well, we didn't get to see much of the original match, did we? Because that was on the Newport Digest episode where it was cut down to as little as possible.
Sorry, I should have probably meant in terms of the idea and obviously stuff that happened, because you have the distraction spot instead of Carino, it's Jack Zed. But I agree. I thought the kind of going out to crowd spot, he's giving Aviv so much, because obviously, say Aviv's his project. Aviv is well over and looks, like some people would cheer for and stuff like that. So I'd probably go I'd probably say 3.5 as well, I'd say.
Yeah. The size difference here is hilarious. This looks like a man wrestling a child.
Yeah.
A small oiled up child.
It's yeah, I mean, to be fair, anyone. I mean, when we did when it was Ross Jordan's time against Shane, it was very much big and little in terms of that point. But again, Shane is Alex is he's taller than I think nearly. Is there anyone in the roster that's the same kind of height as him?
Ulf.
Are we ever gonna see Ulf again? No, probably not. So, but no, I think, and again, I think what Alex does best is he does those kind of big man, from what I'm seeing so far, big man, little man matches is kind of his bread and butter at certain points. So if it works, it works.
Ad break, ad for the website again, and then a hype video, as Andy alluded to. It's the match everybody is talking about. The FWA's most brutal battle of the year. Oh, he's not having this. You only have one chance to see it. Uncut, uncensored, unmissable. In 2 weeks, Jack Xavier, Alex Shane, last man standing.
Off.
Wow. Wow.
But then again, probably the highlights they show in it is, I guess that's from the actual match itself, and then you hear some screaming Nick London out there. Oh!
So in between all of this text is clips of them battering each other in the match, and the end is a screen saying Thursday, July 22nd, only on TWC, Sky Channel 427, soundtracked by crowd noise, and the commentators yelling, "Oh my word, no!" You might not believe it now. This match was a big deal for the FWA.
All right.
They'd kind of hyped up very much so with the whole Jack Xavier and kind of had Alex Shane's storyline. So, like, I kind of expect it to be a big deal. It's just whether it will live up to the hype of Andy Ogden turning his TV off at that point, So.
We'll do the next episode and he'll go, "I didn't watch it." Back to John as he sets up Johnny Storm versus D'Lo Brown, saying in the last few weeks, Storm has turned back the challenges of Mark Belton and Extreme. Nothing about him inspecting the lights for Carino 2 weeks ago in Newport, though. In the ring, Storm is claiming that he's just got off the phone with Rob Black. Not to place an order for a copy of Anal Skanks 5, but to talk XPW business. Oh, wait.
Can I just also say a good a praise for Kieran here? I loved the little screen becoming the big screen in the
You're so easily pleased when it comes to television production.
Whoa, do you want the fucking compliments or not? Here, I fucking enjoyed it. It's the little things.
No, I'll take it. Yeah, so the screen that's beside John is showing like the Morecambe Dome and the start of the intros, and Johnny with the microphone, and then as he throws to the match, like it zooms out to full screen. So he says Rob Black told him not to defend the title, quote, "in that dump Morecambe." He says Morecambe has two options. It's a non-title match or he goes home. I thought we'd escape them, but page turn and here comes D'Lo. This is the only one this episode. Well, I'm slowly weaning myself off them, apparently.
I'm fine with it, but we need to get straight into this. What a fucking pop for D'Lo Brown. What a
Morecambe,
pop.
For a bloke they recognise off the telly, they go crazy for him. Yeah. I think he's using Stevie Knight's theme music. I thought he had his own FWA custom theme. So, page turn again. Shit, it's another one. And D'Lo has a mic. Obviously, he asks if Morecambe is down. They very much are. As Johnny comically does battle with a pro D'Lo sign that refuses to tear or break. D'Lo finishes by saying the people have paid good money to see him kick Johnny's ass, so that's exactly what they're going to get right now.
I'd like to make the comment as well about the dressing gown on D'Lo Brown. What a dressing gown.
He's in his RO&D gear, so it's shiny pleather trousers and a top, and then this over the top.
He's fully enjoyed his time in Japan and making sure he's getting all the gear that he needs for coming back to.
He looks in cracking nick as well, doesn't he? I think the commentary mentioned he's probably in the shape of his life.
Yeah. I mean, he's always. I saw him in person. I was going to say recently, but it's coming up on 2 years ago now. So I was at a House of Glory show in New York, and he was just randomly there. In a suit, and you forget how big he is
Yeah.
Like seeing him from coming from the land of the giants of the WWE. Like D'Lo Brown is a big lad. So Nick London's kayfabe is that Rob Black doesn't want a man like Brown who has never worked for XPW and has no ties to the company challenging for the title. Notice he didn't say that about Mark Belton. First spot of the match, D'Lo cracks off 3 great TV wrestling punches and hip tosses Johnny at some speed over the top rope. Both times I watched this, I went, "Oh, Jesus!"
And I did enjoy I don't know if you could hear lightly from the crowd, but there was a little kid saying, "Cuckoo's fucking ass." Yeah, thinking he was like Davy Boy Smith had come back as a 5-year-old.
Brown keeps Storm outside with a Silver King dropkick and then does the Misawa dive feint and finishes off by flattening Johnny with a flying clothesline off the apron. Ad break, and when we come back, they're back in the ring, and Johnny's coming off the top with a spinning heel kick. D'Lo takes the bump, but had his hands up, so he's up quickly, sneaks up behind Johnny, and clobbers him when he turns around. D'Lo goes for the sky high early, but Storm pokes him in the eye and hoofs him outside, where he does his run up the ropes into a cannonball. In the ring, Storm wears Brown out with forearms to the back in the corner, and his around the corner double jump Rana. This is why Johnny Storm is the best XPW European champion of all time. He's also the only XPW European champion, says Tony Giles. D'Lo blocks a suplex. Johnny slips out of the reversal, but runs into a pop-up Samoan drop, a body slam, and the trademark head wheel leg drop. Brown contributes our 3rd missed moonsault across 2 episodes and ends up in Storm's wheelbarrow DDT and the Fantastic Four combo. Johnny slides out of a gorilla press, backflips out of a German suplex, but finds nothing but air when he goes to tip up over D'Lo in the corner before getting ragdolled with a half Nelson suplex. This is the D'Lo Brown that's come off an All Japan tour.
Yeah.
If he's using that. This doesn't get the job. Neither does a sit-out version of Chris Harris's Catatonic. Storm grabs the briefcase and bonks D'Lo on the turnip with it when Brown pushes the ref aside. D'Lo kicks out, though. He also kicks out of a top rope moonsault body block. Storm goes for Brown's own sky high, but D'Lo pops out of it, flips Johnny a double bird, and hits his own for the pin. It's fine. Like, I don't think they work together that well. Johnny doesn't get enough, and I thought the finish sucked.
I think the overness in the crowd. If you were to look at like a TW rating or EWR rating on this, I think this match purely does okay on the crowd being into it and how over the D'Lo is, and Johnny doing his heel heat at the beginning and stuff like that. There's a bit where there's a suplex that happens, and it then cuts right to a shot of D'Lo's shirt, and it's like, "Are you down?" And I really like that, but I thought like. There's a bit where it's at the beginning, and I think he goes for something on the top rope, and it was like D'Lo just gets straight back up, and the commentary do a good job of saying, "Oh, he got his hand up," but I was like, "D'Lo, are you no selling? Is this like a this doesn't work for me, brother, kind of thing?" But like, I mean, it's okay. It's not something. It's not something that I think would set the world on fire, but it was okay.
I kind of expected better. Like, given what we've had so far, so we've had the Alex over the course of this recording, we've had the Alex versus Aviv match, we've had the Belton versus Doug match, and we've had that Sonjay Dutt versus James Ty match. This doesn't match up to any of those.
D'Lo was too busy getting ready for his TNA tag team title shot with Gran Apollo. This was just something that was just getting him by. He just finished wrestling Masanobu Fuchi in Japan. Now having to come to Morecambe, and then he's got to go off and work for TNA. So the man's busy.
He is busy because he's got 2 days in Bolton and then Broxbourne in this, and I think they quite possibly loaned him out to other companies while he was here too.
But I think, like as you say, like. From what we've seen, D'Lo is over, and that's kind of the one thing that carries this. When it comes down to the bell ringing, especially if you expect the opponent he's against, and we've seen Storm matches where they're great and he works really well. this is kind of okay. I wouldn't put it as like I'm going to remember this. There are certain things I will remember from it.
I will tell you why I remember it, because this is a match we had to record the commentary twice for.
Oh.
So I remember the taping. We did this. Brown got the pin, and Tony Giles very confusedly went, "And that's your new XPW European champion, D'Lo Brown?"
Oh no!
Because they'd only seen the match, they hadn't seen the mic work beforehand.
Yeah.
When they did the recording,
right?
And we were like, we just sat around and thought about it. And we were like, no, this isn't right. And then like we figured out like it was a non-title match. And we were like, okay, can we just redo the ending? And then I was like, yeah, but we don't know. So the way the recording thing worked, we weren't able to go back and listen to previous stuff.
Right.
In that session. So you have to record a whole session because it was being burnt to disc, and then Ralph would then seal off the disc for that session. And going back and listening means sealing off the disc, going back listening, and then having to potentially start a new disc just for this 10-minute match, which isn't very, in 2004, like that's not very cost effective. And so it was like, what if you said it earlier in the match? So we're like, fuck it, we're just going to have to do it again. So yeah, that's what we ended up with. Andy, do you have any particular thoughts about D'Lo Brown versus Johnny Storm?
Yeah, I think, like you said, the crowd added to it as a match. I thought they worked all right, well together. Obvious result when they made it a non-title match. Which
Johnny's losing a lot of matches to the imports, isn't he?
Yeah. Even though the matches he is having are really good to watch, or you're not, your mind's not taken away, just like drifting off. Where sometimes that can happen with me with wrestling. If it doesn't take me attention in the first couple of minutes, I'm just like, passing me by.
I did kind of feel like this was the house show version of their match, though.
Yeah.
But
despite it being a TV taping, like this was the house. This is not the best match these two people could have together.
But then again, D'Lo's like he's one of them people. He can just get by off like the smallest things like charisma and personality, and he just needs to do the most basic moveset, and the crowd in Morecambe are going to lap it up. Which they certainly did.
They very much did, yes, and sold out the Morecambe Dome.
Yeah, all he needs to do for me is do the shake head, have the chest protector, and I'm sold on him. I'm like, hello, D'Lo, you've got me in the room.
Oh, so you're only half sold because there was no chest protector. He had the nice dressing gown instead.
I know. I mean, I was a bit. He had the shirt on as well, and I was like, okay. You said D'Lo was quite professional. He was quite
absolutely
with the promo and stuff. Yeah.
There is another promo coming up where it's going to be a while till we get to it. Where he really impressed me.
Yeah,
with what he did with the information he was given. So to finish off this TV episode, we smash cuts to the opening titles again, complete with music. Blurred behind an ad for FWA Live. The plugs are for Vendetta at Broxbourne on July the 25th and a TV taping back in Morecambe on the 31st, with rather quaintly phone numbers for both venues for tickets. Also, a ticker running across the bottom with credits for the show you've just watched. As Mr. Ogden made mention of this in our group chat, anything stick out for you?
It's the last two bits. So it was like creative consultant John Lister.
Yes, and I was trying to remember what he actually did. I think he was just like a sounding board for... He was a sense check, I think. I mean, he might have been called creative consultant, but I think he and I, over the course of this 9 months, maybe exchanged half a dozen emails. It wasn't much at all.
What brought him into wrestling before this, or was it because all I know is John Lister is kind of wrestling historian and kind of the Twitter and stuff like that. But
he's a writer. He's been a fan for God knows how long. He was a fanzine writer in the 90s. He was one of the big hardcore fans of the 90s in UK wrestling. That's where I knew him from to start with, and then became professional writer, wrote books about wrestling.
And that's why he's become kind of like a good, and that's a good soundboard, obviously, if you're wanting to manslaughter.
He also has an incredibly, an extremely logical brain, particularly when it comes to wrestling. You know, he's very good to bounce ideas off.
That's good.
And what was the other one, Andy?
Oh, it was something like executive producer and camera extraordinaire Lee Fitty. No, it's Kieran the Fort.
I believe the credit is editor and producer. So these credits are here for a reason. I came from the world of low to no budget filmmaking where you live on your credits. You get your next job off your credits.
Yeah.
And I realized I had been making 3 months of a TV show that I had not had a credit on. So I put these credits on so that if challenged, I can show in episodes and say, there's my name in the credits of this show.
Right.
I did what I said I could do.
Yeah.
I think it comes up once or twice more. But obviously this is the first time. Yeah, and it was purely because to validate what I was doing on the show.
Fairly do's, Mr. Lebeck.
Fucking hell, I don't want to be that guy. I got the nose for it.
There was the production team had obviously Shadow Lambus and Maddock, and there were some names that I've seen before. But
yeah, and that was credited. So stuff like Maddock at that time was the FWA webmaster. He was in charge of the website. And at some shows, while the matches were going on, he would have another camera and he would be shooting promos backstage.
Oh, okay.
Because he was one of the few non-camera operators I could trust with a camera in his hands.
Who was the blue shirt? Come on, I need to know who the blue
shirt
was. I don't
remember his name. I do think that was the nightmare trip home from, or was it the next one? I had one nightmare trip home from Morecambe where I had travelled up with these 2 camera operators, and on the way back, we went the wrong way. So we'd been driving for an hour and we wanted to stop for food and a piss. And I suddenly noticed there was a sign saying X number of miles to Hadrian's Wall. And I was like, hold on. And we got an hour in the wrong direction. So our trip home took us 5 or 6 hours because we then had to go the hour back to Morecambe and then the trip. And that I'm sure it was that guy. He was driving and he would not speak to me for the rest of the trip. I had to sit in the back with them because I had to make a copy of tapes, and that involved linking 2 cameras together and playing the tape in one and recording it in the other and holding them very carefully so like the tapes, the mechanisms didn't bump as we went down the motorway. Jesus. It was a different time when it comes to technology. Yeah.
No.
Anyway, what this did remind me, these credits, that it was Tom Beattie, not Wade Fitzgerald on hard cam at Newport. He was another academy trainee, and if you saw him and Wade standing next to each other, you'd understand why I mixed them up.
Rah.
No, he did not rely on Kid Ra. He was another very small Portsmouth trainee.
Lion Cub.
He Hotel Lion or Kid or something like that.
No. So overall, 2 decent episodes, I thought, particularly in ring, with at least 3 of the 5 matches worth watching. Mm-hmm. I also think the structure and the format of the show are starting to come together. Like, this is the show I remember making with the John Atkins segments and the promos, plugging stuff coming up next week, and then like at least one decent wrestling match and that kind of stuff. Contrary to my complaint about episode 13, episode 14 promoted 3 things coming up in the next 2 weeks. Another monster moment, the All England title ladder match, and the Shane versus Xavier last man standing match. I think we're at the point where this is actually turning into a proper TV show. And it has only taken the idiot behind it 3.5 months.
Yeah, I think, on our last episode, I was like threatening to quit the show, weren't I? Because we had 2 of the worst episodes I think we've seen overall.
Yeah, because it was shit matches in horrible venues.
Yeah. I think this time, thank God for Morecambe. They added so much to the show. As you mentioned, the matches were all right. The Belton one, Shane and Mayan, I thought was pretty probably the best of the lot overall over the two shows. Well, as I've said before, I'm probably not looking forward to advancing against Mr. Animal Farm and the Jack Xavier and Alex Shane thing. But you know what? These matches are out to surprises. Well, even the Sonjay Dutt one, me and Kieran were down on last episode, thinking, "Oh God, Sonjay."
I'm not necessarily down, but it's like when I think of exciting wrestling, Sonjay Dutt is not the first person I think of. But I had forgotten how good he was during this point, like how agile he was.
Yeah.
We're talking about the venues for the rest of our run of this season. So up until the end of Kieran Learns on the Job, the only venues we see are Broxbourne, Morecambe, and Brenttown Hall. No, there's nothing. So that basically tells me, okay, so the other stuff that Sonjay and D'Lo did in Bolton is not going to be aired.
Oh, within a match, or did they face each other?
Yeah, they were in matches. Yeah.
Huh.
So they did. Let's find them. They did FWA live in Bolton the night after this, which was James Ty versus Eamon Shahan, Aviv Mayan versus Mark Slow, Mark Belton versus Jack Xavier, Alex Shane versus Dangerous Damon Lee, the family defeating Murat Bosporus and Spud. And then Sonjay Dutt over D'Lo Brown and Johnny Storm in a three-way. And then they did the absolutely horrible FWA Unsigned in the same building. And it was basically, you remember the guest match?
Yeah.
The idea was a card full of those matches from all over the place. This drew 50 people to Horwich Leisure Centre.
I see.
It was bad. I remember being there for that show, and it was bad.
Is it on tape?
I believe if you want to go, I mean, it's down on our spreadsheet to go to it. Some of this aired on FWA Classics, which was a secondary TV show that popped up in 2005.
Right.
Which mostly contained unaired matches.
Right.
And I know at least one of the matches from this. Was it this or is it the night? There, at least one of the matches from one of these two Bolton tapings is on that series.
It's on that series, right.
So you got that to look forward to.
Can't wait.
Year-old shit wrestling from in front of 50 people in Bolton.
What dreams are made of,
I'm going to
mate.
shoot straight about. I'm going to shoot straight. I think you have done incredibly well now with the show. I think you've kind of now got the concept and you've kind of got an idea of how you're laying things out. I think you're making sure it's a tight 45 minutes. Otherwise, Sean's going to probably clip you around the ear. But I think you've done really well. I think both of these, I've not had any issues. I think you've done really well.
Oh, thank you very much.
You've got the job. You can carry on for another wee while. I don't know how long.
You've got the job you left 21 years ago.
Yeah, but you don't have to worry about being, having a megalomaniac.
I mean,
random
there's a whole bunch of technical shit. Like for fuck's sake, why wasn't that microphone that John Atkins is holding in the open plugged in? Why was I using the sound off the on camera mic and all the reverb and stuff? And it was probably a good idea to learn how to do green screen before just going ahead and doing it on a TV show, that kind of thing. But that's just me picking it up. Yeah. Like, there is so much stuff in all of these TV shows that I could do in my sleep now that was a massive pain in the arse and I had no clue what I was doing. Infuriating.
The most important thing we've learned is that you discovered effects and decided to press F5 for fire when you were doing the you're
going to get fire every virtual monster moment. Eddie, status of tournament, or can you legally not talk about it?
5-Star Wrestling under the Sideburns brand will be coming back. We've got the tournament. We have now decided we're opening the field to 3 million. At the moment, we're going to say a cool 3 million at the moment. We're still looking in venues. I did check about the Morecambe Dome, but apparently it was demolished in 2008. So, we might just wrestle on the ground that's there, same way where we might go to Evoke. Although
it's on the seafront. You could do the matches on the beach.
I know, but if people keep nicking bricks from these venues and Evoke and stuff like that, we're not going to have anywhere to wrestle. So, we'll make it work, though. We're going to back there. But you can find me on Eddie Siburns on Blue Sky. I am on Instagram. I'm not on Twitter because I'm retired, but I do check it to see group chats, and that's it. But other than that, yeah, that's where you can follow me.
Andy, from the land of graps and claps.
Yeah, so as ever, you can follow me on Twitter at Oggy Part 3, the podcast at GCP Podcast 1. Just go and listen back to our usual live reviews. Try and remember stuff from the night before. It's mainly the drink. The wrestling happened. And also we've recently had the second episode of Shite, which was looking at Triple H and Chris Jericho, their feud leading up to WrestleMania 18.
Oh, I listened to that recently. Yes.
Yeah, it's a very interesting one involving four things: Triple H, Jericho, Stephanie McMahon, and a dog.
And the poo of the dog.
And the poo of the dog. So give that a listen. And also coming up will be the next episode of Working a Reslow with Master Kieran. So go and listen to that on all good podcasting platforms.
Yes, indeed. We will be covering Orig's last taping of 1990, I do believe. And then as of next month, it's 91 and so on and so forth. As for this show, you can find everything to do with it at linktr.ee/FWApod. We are on Twitter, Blue Sky and YouTube at FWApod and Instagram at FWA.pod. As for me personally, I guess you could follow Kieran Edits on Blue Sky if you really want. A bit of a time travel plug. As we record this, it has not been recorded, but might be out by the time this is out. I will be / have been on Days of Thunder on the free feed, reviewing the TBS movie Shutter Speed, starring Steve Sting Borden alongside Staggerly Malone. So you can go to alargemanapears.com if you want to sign up for their Patreon, or you can just look for Days of Thunder on your favourite podcasting app. Thank you very much for listening. We'll be back next month to see who will be the last man standing. Maybe Andy won't. And there's 2 things you can do about it. Belton gets Hope's box off an O'Connor roll and a springing... I can say that word. Frankensteiner. Belton... You cracked me up, shit.